Thank you first for inviting me to this conference. This is extraordinary to have so many people interested in Arabi. More than any other Muslim thinker, Ibn Arabi dedicated his teachings to clarify the presence of the divine wisdom in all things and the human necessity of conforming to that wisdom. The arguments that he offers are at once metaphysical and scriptural, cosmological, psychological, scientific, and ethical. He addresses every dimension of human and cosmic existence and speaks constantly of the inherent goodness of all of creation and the human duty to respect the rights of all creatures, not simply the rights of God and the rights of our fellow human beings. If there is a single scriptural theme to his writings, after Tawheed, it is certainly the prophetic saying, give to each that has a right its right. He reads this in conjunction with the Quranic insistence that God created the universe and everything within it bil-haq. That is, by means of and through the right, the real, the appropriate, the true. Ibn Arabi understands this to mean that everything in the universe is right, true, and real. Human beings, however, are not necessarily given the insight to recognize the truth and rightness of all things. In order to achieve such recognition, people need prophetic guidance, and only then can they live a life that is right, true, and appropriate. That right and appropriate life demands that they respond rightly and appropriately to the rightness and appropriateness of all things, to the extent of human capacity. In other words, the divine wisdom that has created human beings has imposed upon them the duty of giving to everything that has a right its right. Now, one of the many sides to Ibn Arabi's project of clarifying the rights and the truths of all things is cosmology. That is, the explication of the nature of the universe with its diverse types and many sorts of creatures. One should not, of course, confuse this traditional notion of cosmology with what goes by the name in modern times. Today, when scientists speak of cosmology, they mean physical cosmography. That is, the structure of the universe as perceived by means of the technological tools and mathematical theories of physics. Physics can only deal with what is traditionally called the visible or corporeal realm. And the visible realm is only the surface or the skin of the universe. The universe in Islamic terms is not simply physical manifestation. Rather, the word alam, world, designates everything other than God. So, in addition to the visible realm, shahada, it also addresses invisible realms, ghaib, which are infinitely more extensive than what we can perceive with our senses, even if these are aided by the most sophisticated instruments. Ibn Arabi's most famous cosmological scheme is that of the breath of the All-Merciful, Nafas al-Rahman, in which he elucidates Quranic references to the speech of God. The Quran tells us in several verses that God brings things into existence simply by saying be to them, and that God's words are in effect infinite. If all the oceans were ink and the trees were pen, God's words would not run out, so says the Quran. Ibn Arabi explains God's words on the analogy of our own words, which are also inexhaustible, at least potentially. We bring the words out from our awareness, just as God brings his words out from his infinite knowledge. We articulate words in our breath, just as God articulates his words in the all-merciful breath. Our words disappear as quickly as we utter them, just as God's words also pass away. Everything perishes but his face, says the Quran. And Ibn Arabi insists that this rule applies to every moment of every existent thing. It follows that each moment of existence, each moment of each thing is a new creation, a new articulation of the thing's existence. Failing this new articulation, God's words, the universe, would simply disappear. For nothing can exist without constant divine support. Ibn Arabi devotes one of the longest chapters of the Futuhat, chapter 198, to the breath of the All-Merciful. There he takes the Arabic alphabet as representing 28 primordial divine letters. In order to create the cosmos with all its invisible and visible levels, God composes words and sentences and books employing those 28 letters. The outline of this cosmological scheme is well known. Chittick-1 wrote a little book about it many years ago. Each of the 28 letters corresponds to many things, including one of the divine names and one category of created things. Some of the letters represent creatures that appear on the descending arc of existence, the movement from the invisible realms into the semi-visible realm of receptivity, in which the visible cosmos is born. Other letters represent creatures that appear on the ascending arc of existence,